Walter Yeo, one of the first people to undergo a skin transplant and advanced plastic surgery in 1917. Beach patrols measuring the length of women's bathing suits in the 1920s. Fuzzy ducklings being used as therapy animals for children. These baby cages were used in apartments in the 1930s to make sure the child got enough fresh air and sunlight. A hotel owner pouring acid in a pool while a black family swam in it in 1964. Princeton students after a freshman vs sophomore snowball fight in 1893. This chimp poses for a picture after his successful mission to space in 1961. People posing next to the Statue of Liberty's face as it was being unpacked. A photo of Elvis Presley in the Army. A brave man testing out a new bulletproof vest. A picture of the young Charlie Chaplin at age 27 in 1916. Annette Kellerman promoting a woman's right to wear a fitted one-piece bathing suit in 1907. She was later arrested for indecency. Annie Edison Taylor, who was the first person to survive going over Niagara Falls in a barrel in 1901. The Disneyland employee cafeteria in 1961. A morbid advertisement for Atabrine, an anti-malaria drug, during II. This little girl sits with her doll in the ruins of her London home that was bombed in 1940. The Berlin Wall being constructed in 1961, and Unknown Soldier in Vietnam from 1965. A ruined London bookstore that was damaged in an air raid in 1940. This suntan vending machine in 1949. Martin Luther King Jr. removing a burned cross from his yard with his son in 1960. What lifeguards used to look like in the 1920s. A girl with artificial legs in 1890. A mother and her son look at the mushroom cloud following a nuclear test in Las Vegas in 1953. A mother shamefully hides her face after listing her children for sale in 1948. A joyful Austrian boy receives new shoes during WY. Nazi officers and cadets celebrate Christmas with a feast in 1941. The last of the prisoners leaving Alcatraz in 1963. Melted remnants of a fire at Madame Tussauds Wax Museum in London, 1930. Alcohol being poured out on the streets during Prohibition Detroit in 1929. What happened when Sweden began driving on the right side of the road in 1967? Spectators viewing the body of Maria Elena Milagro de Hoyos after it was recovered from Dr. Tanzler's property. The Wildman suit, which is a double-layer suit covering head to toe.
The isolator who created everything from portable television goggles, kangaroo boxing in the late 1800s, the strange picture of Al Khan's manta ray, when Thanksgiving was more like Halloween, Operation Babylift who saved more than 3,000 orphans, a half-Catholic, half-Protestant couple buried side by side, preserved human hands by Dr. Thomas Dent Mutter, the renowned scientist who would later tragically suffer from the ailment himself. Andre the Giant meets a fan. When hard drives had to be transported by plane, Salvador Dali and his anteater trying to escape to Mexico in 1939. A weird photograph of Soviet soldiers feeding polar bears. Buzz Aldrin's space selfie, who took the first space selfie in history, long before smartphones, social media, or even the term selfie ever existed. Nintendo's original headquarters in 1889. How to avoid trigger-happy police during Prohibition. A strange picture of a vintage Coca-Cola advertisement.
Vintage Halloween costumes which were, from unnerving doll masks to bags placed over children's heads. Night fishing in Hawaii in 1948. Human chess in Soviet Russia. Margaret Howe. Lovett's intimate relationship with a dolphin. Woodrow Wilson. Flash mob. The motor wheel. This motorcycle used one wheel that ran on a rail placed inside of a solid rubber tire. Poon Lim's 133 days at sea. The motorboard, Hollywood inventor Joe Gilpin showcases his latest gift to the world in 1948.
Adolf Hitler poses in lederhosen, circa 1930s. When alarm clocks were expensive and unreliable, a knocker-upper was often hired by British people to wake them up in alternative ways. Participants in the beautiful leg contest wear pillowcases over their heads so that the judges can see only their legs. President Lyndon B. Johnson drives his amphicar on April 10, 1965. A creepy vintage Halloween costume. Women wear plastic headgear intended to protect themselves from snowstorms in Montreal, 1939. Enos, the chimpanzee, lies in his fight couch before being inserted into NASA's Mercury Atlas V space capsule. A man wears the Brewster body shield, the first body armour developed by the US during World War I. A pile of American bison skulls sits at an unspecified location, waiting to be ground down into fertiliser circa mid-1870s. A man wears an early version of roller skates, powered with pedals and wheels. 1910.
Inventor Hugo Gernsback models his television goggles for Life magazine in 1963. French Red Cross dog wears a gas mask, 1917. Jack the Baboon worked on the railway system in South Africa for 9 years in the late 19th century and never made a single mistake.